Welcome to the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
I'm Rebecca Plum, your big sister.
And I'm Sean Surha, your GBF.
We're not that hot or that young.
But we believe it's a state of mind that helps us build adaptable and profitable businesses.
We rely on the support of our design besties to get through each day.
So let's explore the emotional, practical, and humorous sides of being interior designers.
Welcome to the club. Hey, Sean.
What's up, Rebecca?
Oh, it's a Friday here where we are and where our listeners are.
I love that. I love that we figured that out after 3+ years of podcasting.
It's not the same Friday, but it's a Friday nonetheless. So same spirits.
Yeah, TGIF, y'all. I hope you're feeling a little spring in your step.
I am definitely...
sugar in your tank.
I'm definitely feeling the need. Except I just did a thing where I kind of opened up my Saturdays a little bit to kind of do as a pressure valve for my M through Fs. And I am realizing if you're going to do that and be a smart business lady, you have to drop off somewhere else. So.
Yes. Yeah, because you just increased your production capacity with a whole other day, but you did not decrease it somewhere else.
Yeah, the stress.
So now you're just a Monday through Saturday full-time business.
Yeah. So I'm feeling that a little bit, but we'll work through it eventually.
Yeah, I think I opened up just inadvertently. I usually go through my Acuity at the beginning or end of each year and sort of block out times in advance. And I didn't block out a lot of Saturdays early because, it was slower. And I was like, okay, how many calls could there be? And this coming, I have a discovery call. They snuck in, they found that little sneaky window on my Acuity where it was right before I have a plan to be somewhere where I had already blocked other time, but it was okay, here comes a discovery call. And so
yeah, that's what happened.
And the weekend before I did a consult and it was oh.
And I wanted to open. So the reason why I did it was because I did want to open availability. I have a client right now and I'm finding that some people just can't do stuff during the week based on their job. So I wanted to make that available to those kinds of people.
But then you regret it.
So many regrets.
Because there's something so great, even if you have zero to do, about a zero to do weekend where it's not
I am
even
team zero
a 90-minute consult.
I'm I never plan shit on the weekends. I'm I don't care. I have no friends, whatever. But I just,
That's not true.
Mama needs some QT.
That's the real answer is you could go do stuff with friends. You could do that. You could have lunches or brunches or whatever. But there's something so awesome about just not getting dressed all day and just being in your house in your PJs.
Literally.
And yeah, these slippers are getting too hot. I should go get my other pair that I haven't worn yet.
I'm still get
the cold slipper.
I'm still the Vegas vendors who stopped serving food because of the pandemic and still are using that as excuse. I'm still living my pandemic introvert life. I never picked it back up again.
I have I been outside today? Oh, we should probably take Pasky for a walk then, because I haven't been outside on this Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And it does look lovely some days, but I don't know. I think what we're talking about is just that effect of having work so much and being on and our brains having to fire so much during the week that I need to shut down on the weekend to recover.
Yeah, but then a smart person would just maybe not leave it all on the
Don't leave all your pistons firing all week.
Yeah, save a little.
Full
save
blast.
A little for your friends and fam.
Well,
speaking of friends and fam.
Okay.
Well, we want to talk about our Patreon a little bit.
Yes, and those are our design buds, our best buds.
Yeah, they're committed. They're in a semi-committed relationship with us.
It's complicated.
But we appreciate every hottie that's in our Patreon. And I don't know, we've been discussing things behind the scenes, and it seems like maybe people don't totally know what Patreon is as a general concept.
Yeah, yeah. So like there were some like, so is this yours? And it's like, okay, no, we don't own Patreon.
That'd be
It's its
amazing.
own it's its own company that was specifically its whole purpose is to allow creators of all types to be able to build community pages and subscription platforms with their fans and the people who support them and want to support them.
And it's
So
based on that
there
old, like
are,
old-timey patron of the arts. Like artists used
yeah,
to have patrons who basically paid for them to live.
yeah, like they would help them get an apartment and they'd help them buy studio
There's probably
supplies so they
other
could create
things being
beautiful
exchanged as
art and
well, but
sculptures and maybe a little rent boy
yeah.
behavior. Like,
Maybe paint me like your French girl's behavior.
yeah, like, but okay, so hotties, you know, we'll paint you like one of our French girls. Like,
But no, that's where it's kind of started from. So Patreon is a system that, yeah, basically there are tons of creators out there that
artists,
pod,
illustrators, comic book makers,
podcasters,
podcasters.
drag queens, like there's all kinds of stuff.
Oh, everybody's on. Oh, yeah. And people who actually like make tangible stuff also, where they do it like on a commission, where they're like, if you are a patron, I will make you this craft or thing, but like I will only do commissions for my patrons because I just like cannot keep up with an Etsy shop or I can't keep up with a whole
And it builds
Shopify
community.
platform. And
So basically
yeah,
it's just a place where we have different tiers, or a lot of the Patreoners have different tiers, and we have deliverables that we are also responsible for as part of that transaction. So if you join a
right.
tier, there's a list of what we will do for that. We won't paint you like a French girl,
I will
but
not. And I won't knit you something or sew you
no. So there's a
something.
list of what we do for that tier every month. But we also have a little bit of a community. It's not like crazy like Facebook or something, but we post updates. We have little polls. We have sneak peeks to episodes.
And some discussion questions get posed
Yeah.
in there a lot where it feels good to actually know who's replying because through the podcast platform, we have no idea through like Apple Podcasts who's actually paying attention or hearing us. And so it has been really nice to be able to like have
Yeah, we've gotten
messages
to know them
from
a little, some of
everybody.
our patrons a little bit more as well. So how it works is basically you see what the tier levels are and you pay a monthly subscription, and it is not a long-term thing. Like you can cancel anytime.
It's not like a gym membership where they
No,
fight you
it's
on
really
getting like
easy to
literally you can
unsubscribe.
just go in when you're ready to cancel
We
it.
hope you never
But
will.
what we love is that it literally like I just feel like it doesn't it's very hard to convey that it takes a lot to keep the podcast running as for you your like third business.
Me? Yeah, one of my
For you it's
businesses.
your third business, for me it's my second business. Like but it's that idea that it has its own web hosting. We have we like literally could not make the show without an editor. So like we need the editor. Like we cannot go back to where Rebecca was doing all the editing because we would not be able to make the content. We don't have the time. So it helps us get the editor on board. It helps us get the episodes created. We have help now for the show through our virtual assistant. So it's a whole separate operating thing that needs to be fed to be kept alive like a Tamagotchi.
Oh
Like
yeah. And when we go away for the
when it
weekend,
feeds, you have to feed
when we
it.
go away for the weekend, will you feed my Tamagotchi?
Yeah, and we get a lot of joy out of the show, so that's valuable, but I don't want anyone to think that like, oh, they're over here becoming millionaires off of this. Like,
No
no, you
dollars.
guys, like
No dollars have been
quite
transacted into our bank
literally
accounts.
a winning year for the show is if it can cover itself completely without needing, a government bailout from the governments of Rebecca and Sean. So
Right. And we just want to get to the point where we're pretty close now, where we can just do the stuff that we love about it so that there's no resentment, no Sean's
Yeah.
going to quit on us again. Like, we can't get too stressed.
I'm never going to live that. Rebecca's never going to let me
Well,
live that down.
I'm not trying to make you feel
We don't
bad,
want to
but
be
it was
stressed out. We don't want to be
stressful.
stressed out in our
Yeah.
businesses. Yeah. And we don't want to be so overwhelmed in our businesses that the podcast
Like, it's the
requires
first thing to go.
more than we can give. Like, so we've gotten to a place now where it is really like we have help, we have systems, we have sustainability. And, you know, it's not just like a basement hobby that we do on Sunday nights or something. So I think it's hard if you are listening to really hear how that works for us and what we do. We really do enjoy hearing from other designers. We are having group chats with people, and it's that's
we
why we're
always
doing
want this
it.
to come from a place of joy because we think that makes a more enjoyable show. So,
Yes.
thank you. And that's Patreon.
Thank you to all of our French girls.
I can't wait to see those paintings. So today, speaking of emotions, we wanted to talk.
Yeah, no
We
kidding.
wanted to talk a little. We've had this on our list for a while. I don't know. We'll put this for sure in the show notes, but there's a meme illustration that was going around. It's been around for a couple years called the homeowner's emotional roller coaster. And it's like a diagram of like mood level 0 to 100% and then the timeline.
This is like the 1929 stock market ticker, and it just crashes.
Like the first like thing that happens is design, and the mood is at 100%, and then it just keeps going up and down. And
all the way through construction,
and then the back to the final high is moving, but like the drywall sanding is like the dark pit of death. Like when it's at that point.
Yes. Yeah, because drywall goes up and you're like, oh my God, how exciting. And then they start to seal it all and you're like, oh, okay. And then it's a
but the sanding
mess.
itself, if you're living in the home, is the worst experience to live through.
Yes, exactly.
So I really wanted to explore, because it does seem there are some consistent highs and lows that go throughout each project, and we just kind of wanted to chat about like what is consistently the worst.
Yes.
It's partly to prepare ourselves, but mostly to prepare clients because their moods drastically affect us.
Yes.
And their freaking out affects everybody. So yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just client energy though, too. Like it's also the contractor's energy. Like I've had a few anxious contractor energies where they're the one making it seem like things are worse.
Like Chicken Littles?
And I don't know if
I don't do good with Chicken Little energy.
No, I don't like the whole, I really need that valve. I really need to get that replacement valve here tomorrow. And then I'm like, okay, but what day is the plumber actually what day is he actually scheduled to come back? Because that's the day it has to be here. Like, don't tell me don't make it seem like I have to run to Ferguson today to see if they have.
Am I driving to San Francisco because that's the only one available and it has to be in tomorrow, or we're losing 2 weeks?
That's the type of energy that I've had to have that roller coaster with clients, where I will sometimes tell the client, I'm like, look, like there seems to be a little bit of like fire drill prep positioning with what's coming, and very rarely is it actually a fire drill. And usually like when I let the homeowner know like that's what's happening, and I tell the contractor like I'm the project, I'm going to be here to help project manage, but I'm not literally going to just run at the drop of a hat like your own personal assistant. Like we're running a business here. And I do think that adds to the roller coaster of it for the contractor and for us too. Yeah.
And is there any problem solving we can do? Like, can the plumber and the electrician switch? Like, I don't know. Like, they have to figure it out. There's always something.
That. There's always for me, if we start at the beginning of that journey, it's the like try to make the design process feel as like fun and enjoyable as possible, because I know that the length of designing is what clients don't realize is like, we're so excited we have final design and then now we wait for permit approvals. Like there's nothing that'll tank the energy faster.
Yeah, that's not even on this.
Permit
Yeah.
approvals?
It goes from working drawings, which like dips down as you work on those. It goes up when they're
Yes.
done, and then it deep dives into bids and contract. So I guess permit would go in there.
Oh, they may have missed some negative crossover where it's just sitting in purgatory at some
Well,
cities.
because
Like
permit would go, and then yeah, it could be just a lateral line at 0
even deeper.
for a few months.
Yeah, 0 for months sometimes where you're just like in the pit of despair because you're waiting. There's questions from the city. The architect comes back and says, okay, turns out we can't do that balcony unless we do all this structural work. Do you want to pay for that? Like this week, our friend Claire was mentioning that she was saying like the clients don't realize how long it's really going to take until you have walls starting to come up on something. Like it just seems so easy, and we get inundated by that. So the more we can tell clients in advance about what comes next and how long that could take, I mean, it takes the emotional burden off of us. I'm not going to say it makes it easy for the client.
But at least like you kind of want to be able to come back and say, okay, I know this is stressful, but remember we talked about this. And also remember the design, like show them
Look how beautiful
show
it
them the
is.
finish line again.
That's part of why I really have liked giving my like pro status
Renderings?
like 11 by 17s now, like compared to before where I was just putting stuff on legal, but like the quality of the printer matters, but like having the full renderings, like the 3D renderings in there, having all of these like really well put together things, it does give them hope. Like go look back at it. Go look at what we're trying to do. Like if it's just digital and you're scrolling through a PDF, it's just not the same. Like there's something about the tangibility of seeing the design presentation and knowing where you're going.
Like when a hotel or something is under construction, there's always that big giant rendering in the front. So you can envision what the future of this block is going to look like because everyone's so annoyed. Like the traffic's all jacked up.
The streets are all closed.
There's workers everywhere. There's no parking. But
it's loud if you live around there. There's jackhammering all day.
So you have to like, okay, well, I guess it's going to be pretty cool.
With the little trees and the lights and the little figures in the drawing.
Yeah, like, so you kind of need to have that like staked in somewhere upon entrance so everyone like prepares themselves.
Yes. That's the first up and then down, like design and then wait.
Yeah.
And keep waiting.
And we're back to 100 for demo.
Yeah, demo is exciting for most families. I have a few that freak out during that phase because they're like, oh my God, what have we done?
Well, there's no going back.
There's no turning back now. And then you start uncovering stuff. So I would say what this ignores is that when you come down during demo, because you're going to uncover, like literally this week, a pinhole leak in the plumbing of a property in a part of the house we weren't planning on touching. Now we have to sort of repair it and fix it. So there's downs after demo also. Like, oh, look, termite damage.
Yeah. My parents just were doing their bathroom and the downstairs bathroom. And they're like, oh, the upstairs toilet has been leaking into the wall for how long?
Ooh,
as well as the shower's been
little tasty
draining.
black mold action.
Yeah. So now we got to do something upstairs, which we weren't planning on.
Awesome.
And the shower is just draining into the dirt outside. Like,
because the drain came disconnected, right? Something.
Which just change order.
So now there's a sinkhole under the house. Like,
yeah, and just gross. But then also, I will say, when that happens, aren't you so glad you found out? Like, if you never demoed it, if we never did this project, you would be
you would have no idea
living in black mold paradise.
It sounds like it. A paradise.
So yeah, so there's definitely some like nail biting moments during that. But yeah, we get demo, then footings, rough framing, windows, like that's all exciting.
That all feels really
like building a house.
A lot of progress. Yeah. Yeah, because then you're doing like we're doing walkthroughs on stuff and saying, okay, let's just be sure. Do we like the placement of this wall? And people are starting to imagine, the new open floor plan or the new bigger doors that we put in out to the patio. Like, I feel like there's levels of excitement with that kind of build. And it also feels like there's a lot of progress. So clients are amped up.
Yeah, and
Like,
it feels like you're actually creating something from scratch, which is really exciting.
yeah, they don't talk about like inspections that get missed or don't pass along the
Oh, yeah.
way. And then you have to do corrections. Like, that's kind of a bumpy little speed bump detour that you have to go on during some of this.
Yeah. And then like it's starting to go a steep dive down through rough-ins, plumbing, heating, electrical, and insulation. That just probably seems like nothing's actually happening visually.
Oh yeah, because you come in and like you look at, let's just say, like new electricals going in, and all you're just seeing is these like red, or you're looking at yellow or white cable running through the house. And what you don't realize is that the electrician had to spend so much time picking the most efficient route to get all of that stuff done. They're going to be drilling out everywhere to run those. And like they have to plan where those divert off. Like it's a whole little hedge maze of electrical that has to get cut through. And it can feel like stupid
Yeah, like
long.
all those
Like,
things together, it's just a long timeline with very little like visual payoff.
and I mean, we're not, I guess it's the difference too of like a lot of these labor, like skilled labor type roles. It's not very like, there's not a lot of rushing it that you can do. Like, you can't really go fast to like lay out a whole bathroom or a kitchen's worth of plumbing. Like, it has to be very deliberate. You want to make sure you have the right pipes, the right fittings, the right adhesives, the right everything. And like the truth is like I would not want to rush those phases, but yeah, it sucks when the electrician doesn't show up for 3 days because he got called off on
Well,
another
that's what I was
job
gonna
and then you
say.
have to
There's like a
wait.
lot of
Like,
different trades and subs trading off in this timeline that there's probably gaps in schedules, which
oh
feels
yeah. Yeah,
bad.
because you're thinking, oh, 2 weeks. Like in our perspective, if I had to wait 2 weeks to get the heating and the AC guy there, like, okay, 2 weeks, that's fine. Like, that's not that bad after the years we've all had. But for a client, that's just 2 weeks where they feel like nothing is happening and they're still writing checks out to everybody.
Yeah, and carrying costs on this house, whether and maybe living in it. So that's
Yeah,
like
for
if you're
some of
doing
them.
dishes in your bathtub, like you're hating it.
Yeah, I do kind of prep. I don't have anything like organized, but I do have like it's time to like get your camping kitchen together. Like if we're doing a kitchen, which a lot of my stuff is kitchens and baths. So yeah, it's like it's time to, I should really just make a handout at this point where it's like a one pager, like,
How to make a
here you
camping
go.
kitchen?
Like, yeah, you need like a setup. And some clients, I had one client who was really smart. They had the contractor take their sink they were demoing and he made like a little 2x4 stand in their like backyard. And they put like a bucket with like a little cover on it and they had the pipe come down into the bucket so they could wash out dishes. And then they would just take that, the stuff from washing little dishes, they would take that and put it down the toilet because they still had some working toilets in the house. So
That's
it's
awesome.
sewage. Like, you can't just like put food down it. Like, I'm not going to put, bits of broccoli or something, but they were able to like get a little like camp
That's cute.
set up so they could do it and they could use the hose outside and like they could use a kettle to get some hot water, like full Laura Ingalls, like Little House on the Prairie status. Like,
That's also SoCal life.
yeah, because you could go
Yeah,
outside
like
at
that
any
was
season
winter.
almost and wash your dishes. Yeah. But you do need one of those little like bus bins that they use at
Mhm.
restaurants, like put the dishes. You need a little bus bin, put some hot water, wash your stuff, get paper plates if you don't
And
want
if
to
you did a
wash
lot of
anything.
kitchens, it
But
would probably make sense to like have your own station you could lend out to
oh my
clients.
God, could you
Like
imagine if
or
like I
you'd
could
have like one of
just,
those Coachella sinks, wash stations,
For rent? I mean, I
I don't know.
guess. They already have porta potties in their yards when we're ripping apart bathrooms and stuff.
With a
Like,
little pump, foot pump.
if
I
you're
know, it's
lucky.
gross.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are some
Those people make good money.
oh,
Should we be investing in porta
porta potty
potties? Like, is that a business model we should be
porta
investing
potties and
in? Like,
parking lots. Like we would be rolling.
parking lots when I worked at the bank, because it was a wealth management group, you'd be maybe you would not be surprised, but a lot of very wealthy people are parking
Oh
lot
my
owners.
God.
It makes so much money in parking impacted areas. And you have very little
Like
maintenance. So like
zero.
compared to like an apartment building, you just have to have asphalt and ADA compliance, is kind of like your biggest
They
concern. And you have to have some
yeah, they're not
lighting,
even like cleaning the pee out of them. Like, ugh.
No, yeah. So you just need like a parking attendant who will pick up trash and take money from people. So it's like a very passive income source if you were like, if you were smart enough to own an empty lot that was near like where they put the SoFi Stadium and you just held on to it for 30 years, like
Yeah.
talk about bank. Like we need to get into porta potties and
Yeah,
parking
go back.
lots. Rebecca and Sean's porta potty and parking lot emporium.
Oh my God, that'd be so cute. Okay, but we digress.
Like we do. Ups in the moods come in the reno process when drywall starts to go up. We talked about that a little bit. It gets better. That really feels like a house at that point.
Yeah, and if some people have a hard time envisioning, yeah, like
Visualizing.
when you're just in framing, like you can't totally picture everything. But yeah, once the drywall is up, then you're like, okay, these are actual dimensioned walls.
Right. And then it's easy to start imagining then, because then you also start to see where like the junctions for the sconces are on the walls and like where the chandelier. So it gives your eye like some good punctuation spots to see things.
Yeah, and you can tell how big things are, and I don't know. It does feel more like you're playing house and it's getting built. Like this is your fort. Your fort has come to
Yes.
life.
Yeah. I have a little bit of trouble as we start moving ahead though, because I feel like from here on, it starts to be like everything starts to get a little dire. Like if the junction box was put in the wrong spot, we're now having to like cut drywall and shift it and repair it. Or if the client needs to make a last minute change on a faucet and you're like, okay, there's only like 3 that go with the valve that we
Right.
put in the wall. So we're either replacing the valve or picking one of those 3. Like, yeah, it'd be great if that didn't happen. And I'd love to tell all the hotties, like, oh, that never happens. But like, I'm sorry, shit does happen. And they do change their mind about something. Or they're starting to freak out about the cost now because they're writing so many checks up till this point that they're like, maybe we won't do the medicine cabinets. And you're like, we framed for them. Like they're already ready. Like it's happening. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, I think this is the point. Yeah, so this little graphic was not made by a designer, I don't think.
Yeah, because it's just a straight up shot from cabinetry all the way through finished electrical. They're like, it's so
Yeah, it's just
great.
going up, up, up. But there's definitely like dips. I mean, also when things come in that aren't correct and nobody caught it.
Mm-hmm.
I had a kitchen with like manufactured cabinets that were made in another state and had a huge lead time on them because it was 2021, and
Yeah.
they were inspected but not fully unwrapped because they had to stay protected in the garage, and there were internal damages, and it was a major disaster. Just timing. The clients were over it and they had to wait longer for those cabinets to come.
To replace them.
Yep.
And I have some nail bite moments with cabinetry and finished carpentry is always one of those where like if it's perfect, if that is perfect, if like cabinetry ends up being a perfect install, the universe is going to give you something else that doesn't work.
Right.
Like I've never had I'm going to say, I don't think I've ever had cabinetry go off with like without one hitch. Like it's just so many literal moving pieces, and cabinet makers miss stuff and they're like, oh, I forgot there needs to be a filler right here so this drawer doesn't rub on this part of the wall,
Mhm.
and they made the drawers too big. Like it's such it's like so many things can go wrong in a row of cabinets that if you're off by a half an inch, now suddenly the hood isn't centered where the stove is going to go. So it's so detailed, there's nowhere to hide anything at this point. Like if it's
Yeah. I had
there's not
a
a lot of wiggle room. Like,
it wasn't my vendor, but I had a cabinet install. For some reason, they didn't wrap the cabinets when they were delivering them, so there were all these, like, scratches and, like, tiny corner, like, dents, I guess?
dingies.
Yeah. It's
Oh
like,
my
"Why
God.
would you do that?" Like,
That I don't
anything, like,
understand.
furniture too, like, why would you not just pay extra so that you don't have to deal with this again? Like, to wrap it,
I
I don't.
cannot. That makes me
Oh
so
my god, and the client was so
anxious.
mad, and then if something so the thing that I think happens a lot is one of those things happen, and now, like, spidey senses are fully activated with the client. They get
Mm-hmm.
their big magnifying glasses out on everything.
Get their blue tape out, get their roll of blue
Yeah,
tape,
because 'cause they're like,
and
"Oh, that's I'm not gonna let anything else by me,"
nothing else slides
or, like,
now.
assume that everyone's an idiot and just, like, constantly looking for stuff.
Well, especially because at this point we're talking about finishes. Like this is the stuff they're going to stare at every
Mhm.
day. So there's a hypersensitivity to wanting it to be perfect, even if your client is realistic that it won't be. But like, yeah, we didn't just pay to have all this drywall put up and have it be perfectly smooth and then have it painted over with dings in it, or the cabinetry be with dinged or something. Like they want what they paid for, and they're going to be way more vigilant of these finished products than they're going to be of framing. Like no, I've never seen a client go and look at the quality of the pine 2x4s. Like, and I'm going to tell you, there is a lot of shitty lumber out there. Like
They probably
there's a
should
lot
be
of
looking at
really
that.
crappy. Yeah, and I have had contractors who have like a discard pile because they're like, these pieces are shit. Like they're gonna fall apart, and I don't want to put these in, and I don't want to have to like square out the walls 14 times just because this board was so warped. Like that's good if someone is, but like clients aren't looking at that. They're not looking at junction boxes and going, this one's bent. Like if they knew like the rough stuff that has defects in it, but it's still functionally fine. Like there's tons of that
It's
stuff,
all
but
hidden.
they're not gonna let it slide when we're talking about like their new light fixtures or the tile. Like,
Yeah, and I also think there's this phenomenon that probably most designers have felt or dealt with, that clients are so, like, keyed up and anxious because of how much money they've spent, and if it's been a long time, like, "Holy shit, am I even gonna like this anymore?" And so, like, the first finish that goes down, they're like, "This isn't right. This looks terrible," and they're, like, looking at it against, like, the waterproofing or, like, some great like, the purple hardy backer, like, you can't judge these things one at a time, and it's, like, a constant, "Calm down. You have to see everything
it'll be
together."
fine.
Or, like, scale too, like, we've talked about that where, like, if one light fixture goes up before any furniture's in and the scale just looks crazy, clients will start freaking out and second guessing.
I mean, I would do it too, though. Like I'm
Well, I
critical at
do
that
do
phase,
it, but
even in my own
I mean, I
home.
do do it, like, as the designer, I'm like, "Oh, shit, did I do that right? Like, is this good? Did I?"
No, and I have those oh crap moments where I have like the tile guy's like, well, what are we doing for the niche? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, what am I putting there? And I'm like, there's finish edging. And he's like, no, I opened all the boxes. I'm like, I, they're there. I promise you. Like, and then you start thinking, find the
Are they
invoice,
there?
find the shipping label, look, like, are they there? Did someone break them? Whatever. And then, you have those emergency fire drill calls where you're like, no, for sure. And they're like, well, I got some Schluter here. And you're like, do not,
Oh,
you little shit, do not put the Schluter that, like, I know there's a box there and it has a dozen finish edge pieces for that niche. Like, go find them. Like,
yeah.
that's the tension that's going on at that point, because they're also the contractors in a let's get
Yeah,
it
they're in
done
full
mode. And
wrap
I got the
up.
tile guy here and he's not going to come back tomorrow. And you're like, the hell he won't. Like, he will come back tomorrow if he's not done. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to do this right.
Yeah, and did something get misplaced and we can't find whatever valve, like all those little pieces, and I don't know, depending
Oh
on
my
the
God.
job site, like it does get really scary. And I don't know, like as things start like really going in, I think at some point it can be like, did I fuck that up?
And sometimes I
Sometimes I
do.
yeah.
I've had the wrong amounts of hardware and they're like, we're missing pieces. And I'm like, really?
Hardware is so hard
Like,
to
yeah,
count.
okay. It's so well, and the cabinet plans change sometimes when
Yeah.
you're doing a shop. Like, I plan one thing, and then during shop drawings, the client's like, you know what? I'm gonna spring for it. I want that extra pull out, or I want to change that door. And you're like, okay, no big deal. And you just have to hope that your hardware doesn't get discontinued or something.
Yeah,
But
otherwise it's blue tapeville for a couple weeks.
yeah, so far so good. Like, but that stuff is also like gonna happen. Like, there is gonna be that missing doorknob or the missing, cabinet stuff and light fixtures that you were like, oh yeah, we added a light fixture, but it never got added in the design package. Like, okay, well, we'll get you a flush mount light ordered for that. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, so I think it's really like doing a really good job at managing clients' expectations. And like we've talked about it too in the framework of like a Candyland board game of like, okay, we're gonna enter into the pit of despair, chocolate mush pot, like whatever it's called. Like things tend to go wrong here. And maybe if you're like really forewarning clearly, it'll raise expectations in a way that it won't be as bad.
Yeah, I really adopted very early the idea of telling clients, like, something will go wrong.
But it's like,
Like,
can you
it's
get to the point where you can tell them at the milestone? Like, I think we can say that all day long during design, but we're at 100 still.
oh
Like, we need
yeah.
to do it when we're in like the murky middle and like we're going to round the
And when we're
bend into whatever.
right. And like, tell them in advance of the cabinetry meeting. Like,
Yeah.
hey, you're probably gonna make some changes, and it's gonna have some budget impacts if you get a little wild. So like, let's stick to the plan as much as possible. But this is also your last chance to change any shop drawings with the cabinet makers. So I want you to get what you really want, but, don't go crazy. And then down the road, remember that on before install day, let them know, like, hey, it's not weird during install days to have cabinets arrive and maybe they're off and they need to be like redone or they need to be built differently. Like, sometimes it happens. Like, the cabinet maker forgot something and you got a drawer instead of a pull-out organizer. Like, we'll work on it, but just don't freak out if they're not all 100% perfect.
Yes.
And then they know, like, okay, this isn't the first time and it's not just me and I'm not the victim here. Like,
I mean, there's
we'll work on
literally a
it.
million moving parts. Like, for things to be completely perfect would be pretty miraculous.
Like, isn't it amazing that you can even get in a car and move safely when you think about how many little ticking time bombs there are at any moment?
Like,
Like how it's
trigger my
impossible. Like,
agoraphobia starting now.
yeah, like, never get on a plane again.
Sure.
Like, it's just like it just makes you realize, like, I don't think that analogy gets communicated enough with our clients about how much can go wrong and that what they're seeing is the better version of that by working with us, and that there is so much more that can go wrong than what they're ever going to see.
And by working with us, we do our best to remedy mistakes, but also through collective experience, try to work with trades that all trades will make mistakes, but you want to work with the ones that fix them and own up and work with
Yes,
you. Like that's to me the biggest. Ooh, they need
I
to
want
be
to hear that.
they need to be skilled, but also like on your team.
Yeah, I have some good and some bads. We've talked about those. Like, there's a fair number of those contractors who, like, in their effort to do things quick, fast, easy, cheap, whatever, end up not doing what we need done.
Or make all kinds of mistakes and really bad
Right.
workmanship.
And that's a whole different
Yeah.
scenario. Like, that's a whole interpersonal skills, managing through influence instead of control. Like, those are all different things that we have to figure out as we navigate relationships with vendors. And that's a whole different roller
Well, we
coaster.
can't control the roller coaster. We just make sure that we like hire the people that maintain things properly and there aren't like screws flying off the track.
Roller coaster of love.
So, yeah, and then that's I think when you're in those pits of despair, when you want to pull out the rendering again. I mean, you probably should do it to the point where the client's like, "All right, enough. We don't even like it anymore."
We don't even want to see it.
But really, like, remember, this is still gonna happen. Like, we just gotta figure this little bump out and we'll get there.
I mean, it's a very privileged place to come from to be able to have these things to talk about and worry about and think about. So I feel like if we can instill that level of gratitude and understanding, it it will help our
Yes.
clients.
And I think really give like the mental space or I guess appreciation for how emotionally fraught this process can be in someone's home. So it's
Right.
not just financial, it's not just physically uncomfortable. You're emotionally like displaced, like you can't just come and go. There's people in your house, like you're basically camping. Your front door is always unlocked. You can't just walk around half naked like you're used to. Like,
I mean, some clients don't care by the time they're done. The contractor's already seen them in their
I mean,
bathrobe.
contractors
Like,
have probably seen it all, but yeah, like just to help, I guess, support the client's emotional side of it and also remind them that that's going to be part of the journey. Because I think a lot of people go into
yeah.
it thinking, okay, this is expensive. And if we're living there, okay, let's get our camping sink together. But if they've never done it before, they've really got to prepare themselves in their marriage. Like you were posting on that reel,
I'm
like
telling you.
maybe get some therapy lined up before you start.
Damn right.
And
Get your
vacations.
house in order.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
that is just like pushing everyone to their extremes.
I hear it.
So,
It's the
Will,
You're not alone out there,
you're
y'all.
not
It's
alone. We're
it's
all
just
white knuckling this roller coaster together. And
but sometimes when you're done, it's such a rush and you're like, woo, let's go again. Like, and that's what we
is it
do.
worth
That's
it?
why do we do it? The adrenaline rush makes it worth it at the
Yeah, that
end because you
final
were like, oh
drop,
my God,
the final drop with your
that was
hands in the
thrilling. We
air.
almost died. Like
Let's do it again.
we could have died, but we didn't. Let's try it one more time.
It'll be better next time.
Whee! Yeah. It's different when you know when the curve is gonna hit or when the loop de loop is
See, and
happening.
that's just
Like,
like what we need to identify. It's like, when
yeah,
is that upside down part? It's coming up.
it's it's coming up now. It's coming up, y'all. So don't let it stop you, because you don't want anyone to think that they've somehow figured it out to be so much better. Like, I guarantee it's still happening to even the best designers and the most skilled. Like, there's always unknowns. There's always things that are unplanned for. So I know we hear from a lot of designers who are like, oh, I'm just so scared to start it. And I just like, literally, there's nothing you could do short of being a contractor that would prepare you to do it. Like, you just have to begin. You just have to start. And it's a super profitable way to be available to our clients. So it feels like we can't ignore this revenue stream of renovations.
Yeah. And people really need our help and guidance.
Lord, do they? Yeah. We're out here doing God's work.
Lord's work.
Well, with that in mind, until next time,
stay hot, designers. Rollercoaster
of love.
Thanks for listening to the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
For more on what we talked about today, check out the show notes.
Your support helps us grow, so share with your design besties.
And subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts.
Our conversations continue on Instagram.
And be sure to download our monthly resources on our website and our Patreon.